Hello, Southern California, and welcome to this week's edition of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management, based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We have another great show for you this week. If you've ever been curious or are wondering what your tax bill is going to be in retirement and how you might be able to help reduce your tax liability, you're not going to want to miss today's show. Tom, my friend, it's great to be in the studio with you. How are you this week?
It's good to be here. It's great to be with you always, but I'm sorry we have to talk about taxes.
Well, I know, right? But it's such an important conversation because taxes can be one of the biggest detriments to folks achieving success in retirement, and they don't even realize it oftentimes.
I trained with 𝗬𝘅𝗲𝗀, who's known as America's authority on IRAs and 401ks. He says that taxes are the single biggest factor that'll separate the average American from their retirement dreams because they don't really know how much they're going to have to pay.
Exactly. And we've said this on the show before. It's almost like a lot of folks are playing a game when it comes to taxes that they've never been given the rule book to. And so we're going to expose some of that today. And you know, the reality is we are taxed in so many different areas. And that's one of the most frustrating things when you've been working hard, saving and accumulating money, watching your hard-earned money needlessly get eaten away by taxes. And so today, the title of today's show is How to Remove Your Wealth from Washington. And we're going to be looking at several types of income that the IRS actually can't touch. But before we get into all that, Tom, I think it's important to set up two things for our conversation today. The first, why would you say it's so important for folks to pay attention to their tax bill in retirement?
Well, it's so important because a lot of people think that they've focused so much on the lump sum, okay? And excuse my French and English, but the lump sum ain't the lump sum, okay? Because if you've got, we were doing some calculations in our Arcadia office with a couple, just a couple of weeks ago, and they were so happy that they had $1.1 million saved for retirement, but it was all in IRAs and 401ks. And I began to point out to them as we went through the process that real spending money, real money that you can use has got to go through the grid of the U.S. tax system before you can spend it. And you say, well, I may get it as a lump sum now and just wait and pay in March or April. Well, do that if you want, but a lot of people, you know, they dig themselves a hole by doing that. But if you've got a $1.1 million, we calculated maybe they have really only about $800,000.
Wow.
That's real money that they can spend. So even if you're focusing on that lump sum and you're looking at it and you're not considering the grid of taxes that it's got to go through, then you may be really making a crucial mistake. And if you're, this is what I find that's so heartache. There are so many people that are working with advisors who just don't address the tax issue.
Right.
They say, well, just leave it to the CPA, or leave it to H&R Block, or leave it to whoever prepares your tax. I'll get money for the commercial that I just gave them. But leave it to somebody else because the advisor doesn't want to address the taxes because but here's the problem. So many times that advisor has been complicit in helping them grow that tax potential burden because they've put it in an IRA, put it into a 401k and build it. And now the tax man cometh, and that advisor also needs to be the way to say, how do we diffuse this time bomb, this potential ticking time bomb that's going to go off?
Well, and that's the second thing that I think I wanted to set up for our viewers today is helping folks understand that you are not a CPA, you are not an accountant, but you are a financial planner who engages in holistic, comprehensive financial planning, and as part of that, you engage in strategic tax planning. So talk about the difference between what you do and what our accountants and CPAs do.
The difference is macro and micro, okay? Now, I've used the analogy before of if you're driving down the road of retirement, imagine yourself in this retirement car. Your tax planners, your tax preparers, even some of your advisors are always looking in the rear view mirror. Now here's what I mean by that. When you turn in your income tax, my CPA, very good friend of mine, you might not think so because of what I say about him from a CPA standpoint, but we're friends, but he calls me twice a year. He calls me in February, Tom, get your stuff in. And then he calls me in March or April, Tom, I got your stuff ready. Now, what stuff is he talking about? He's talking about my last year's income tax. Something I can do very little about. I've just got to pay whatever that it comes to. I've got to pay the balance that he comes up with. And he's always looking at, and so many people are also looking at, how much do I have to pay for last year? And the only consideration they have for tax is what you have to pay now for last year. That's a micro view of taxation. 1 year at a time, always looking back at last year. Why not look through the mirror of retirement and say, I've got these massive 401ks, I've got this IRA, and my spouse has it if you're married, and I've got to be taxed on them before I can spend the money. And why not develop a plan that says, when is the best time for me to pay? Now let's talk about timing. Right now, we are in a tax, almost not a holiday, but in a really a tax cut environment right now. We are in the last 2 years of a 9-year cut on taxes. It expires 2026. It's gone.
If Congress does nothing, the taxes are going to go back up, which is why we always say taxes are on sale right now.
Taxes are on sale right now. So taxes are at their third lowest level ever. Now, the debt of the United States is up. Theoretically, our taxes pay the U.S. debt. So we're in a low tax environment. The debt is at an all-time high. You know, just remember back to COVID, it was around $20 trillion. Now it's approaching $34 trillion. And so we have just expanded that debt so much, and we're facing, even with Congress not doing anything in 2026, those rates going back up. Depending on what bracket you're in, your rates are going to go back up. I'm the bearer of bad news. Don't kill the messenger. Your rates are going to go back up 2 to 4% on January 1st of 2026. That's less than 2 years from now. So with the rates low, debt high, rates going back up in the future, this is a prime season to take a macro view of taxation, to look out the windshield of your retirement and say, this 401k I've created, how much tax is it going to cost us in order to be able to use that money in our retirement? I literally have some people who say, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I just want to. But you know what? That's what the government wants. They have their plan laid out for you, and they don't want you to know.
Right.
They don't want you to see the sheer dollars you're going to have to pay. We have a plan that we can develop for you that you really do need to know. It's not a matter of wanting to know. You need to know. Ask yourself this question. What if I were to pay more tax now when the rates are low, debt's high, going back up in 2 years, maybe going higher than 2 to 5% in 2 years? What if I paid more in tax right now? You say, how can I tell? What do I know? One of the things we do when we build a retirement blueprint is we delve into taxes. And we run a tax report, and it lays out for you, based on your assumptions, your income, your tax bracket, the amount of money you still have that needs to be taxed. It lays out for you, if you follow the government plan, how much total tax either you, or if you're married, a surviving spouse, married or single, when you leave it to your heirs, how much all of you are going to pay on your 401k or your IRA versus your plan. A plan that you develop with you in mind. A plan that you develop to pay less tax. And we show how much the government's plan would end up you paying, and how much, if you're proactive, you look out through that windshield of life, you take a macro view of taxation, and God forbid, but maybe even pay more now when the rates are lower, and get some of that behind you. How much you could save if you have a plan.
And Tom, to your point, once you see it in writing, when you put a monetary amount to it, I think that's when it really hits home for a lot of folks, for sure.
I have some engineers sometimes who look at it and say, this can't be. So I show them the math, and I show them what's behind the math, and they look at it and they do a little calculation on their HP12C, because every engineer that's really an engineer carries an HP12C, and they do the math and they say, you're absolutely right. That's what it'll cost.
For sure. Well, if you're out there today and you're going, you know what, I haven't even thought about my potential tax burden or bill in retirement, or maybe you know it's out there and you haven't wanted to face it, we encourage you, now is the time. Like Tom said, we are in a unique window of time where taxes are on sale. There's never been a better time for you to sit down and develop your own complimentary written retirement blueprint to look to see how you can pay the least amount of tax that you're legally required to pay. So if you'd like to take advantage of that opportunity, it's really easy. All you need to do is call that number on the bottom of your screen, 866-709-1462, or if you'd rather not talk to someone right now, you can simply pull out your smartphone. If you open up that camera app, you can point, click, and scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Mosley Wealth Management will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary visit that way as well. We're talking today about how to remove your wealth from Washington. When we come back, we're going to be diving into some types of non-taxable income. Do you know what all of them are, and are you taking advantage of them? Stay with us.
I had been in the ministry and training for the ministry for about 25 years. It seemed every church I would go to, they would put me in charge of benevolence. And benevolence is when people come to the church and they need money. And they were trying to decide to buy food or buy medicine. And the medicine was some new medicine that was effective, so the drug companies might charge a tremendous amount. And we at the church couldn't afford to help them do that. It was difficult. So when I passed my license on June the 8th of 1995, I was sitting down with my two managers in downtown Pasadena, and these guys, they said, who do you want to work with? And I said, well, what motivated me to get my license was I want to work with retirees. They said, why not doctors or lawyers? And I said from the very beginning, I want to work with people to make sure they never run out of money, because I had seen it.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are talking today about how to remove your wealth from Washington. And Tom, we set up in the first segment, of course, the importance of understanding what your tax bill is going to be in retirement, talking about what it means to engage in strategic tax planning. You and I both know that there's actually lots of non-taxable income opportunities out there for folks to take advantage of them to help them eliminate or reduce that tax burden. So what's the biggest one that folks need to understand?
The biggest one, the fastest growing one, the one that so many people are running to, and I actually think the government is focusing us and wanting us to run to, is Roth, R-O-T-H. So many people are talking about Roths. Now, if you're out there and you're 60 years old, quit kicking yourself, because a lot of 60-year-olds come into our office and they say, I wish I'd gotten into a Roth when I was 20. Well, guess what? Roths weren't available when you were 20. Roths still had, 15 years before they were ever invented in 1998. So you can't keep kicking yourself. Also, they weren't that popular until 2019, when they passed the misnamed Secure Act 1.0 that left us all a little bit less secure.
Insecure.
Yeah, right. When they passed the Secure Act and they said no longer can you leave your IRAs to your children and then them have to take it out over their entire lifetime. They said from now on you have to have your children take that money out of your IRAs and pay tax within a 10-year period after you pass away, or if you're married, then your spouse passes away and leaves it to your children. So at the highest income level that your kids will probably ever be, now they're going to get dumped on those regular IRAs. So a lot of people are saying, what do I do? What do I do? And the Roth is the answer. Now, why do I think the government wants you?
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's a really interesting point that you made. I think I know where you're headed with this, but why is the government wanting people to contribute to Roths now?
Well, pay me now or pay me later. The old Fram oil filter commercial. With a Roth, you pay the taxes now. Now, I don't know how much they're going to need in the future, and they don't care how much they need in the future. They know they need your tax dollars now. And that, in essence, really could be something that works to their immediate advantage. I think it'll be to their detriment over the long haul, but it could work to your immediate advantage right now, because I encourage people to get into a Roth if they can. Now, where do you get into a Roth? You can start a regular Roth IRA, and if you're over 50, you have the opportunity to put $7,500 a year into those, you know, $8,000 a year into those. You can put that much money in as long as you're not making too much income.
Right.
If you're making too much income, you can still do it. We have to play a little trick called a backdoor Roth. That can be something some of the big box firms don't like to do because it's a lot of paperwork. But we do it for our clients because it gets money into that bucket where the tax has already been paid. And remember our premise, taxes are lower now, they're going up in the future. With the debt that we have, it's probably going up higher than even we know. So paying the tax now to get into a Roth, if it's just a regular IRA, fine. But at your 401k, many of your 401ks have a Roth option. I just met with somebody last week and they said, I've got to talk to you. And so they came in and we talked about it. We don't make any money off their 401ks, but we were coaching them on how their 401k now offers a Roth option that matches. So pay the tax now. How much? Pay as much as you can stomach. Okay? Pay as much as you can stand. Nobody loves to pay taxes.
Right.
But in a Roth, especially within your 401k, if you pay the Roth and you put it into 401k now, company matches, that's just extra money that's non-taxable. That's never going to be taxable to you after it gets into the Roth, because you're paying the tax now so that you'll never have to pay it again in the future. So in a regular 401k, in a regular IRA, you are forever taxed as long as there's money in there. In a Roth 401k, in a Roth IRA, I love the word, you are never taxed again after the money gets in there. So would you forever like to be taxed or never again like to be taxed? That's why the Roths are so popular right now.
Well, and it's interesting, Tom, times have really shifted, because I think that what trips up a lot of folks is what we were sold years ago.
Right.
So for example, when these 401ks and traditional IRAs first came out, we were told this was a really good thing for us because you could put the money in now, you get a tax break today, and then you don't have to pay any more tax on it until the money comes out. The shift is that, oh, and supposedly you'd be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, right? That was the other piece of that. That's not always happening for folks now.
No.
So this is why it's interesting. We're talking about how to remove your wealth from Washington, and when we say, okay, you should use a Roth, we're saying you have to pay the tax now. But to your point, that means that you know the tax rate, taxes are on sale. Potentially that tax bill could be even higher in retirement. It's just a little bit of a mind shift from what we were told for so many years.
Absolutely. And I hear all of Southern California yelling right now. I hear you say, how do I get into a Roth if I'm already in a 401k or an IRA where I haven't paid the tax, and how do I get it over into a Roth? I'm so glad you said that. How do we give you some hope? There's such things as ROTH conversions. If you're already retired and your 401k has been moved over into an IRA, if we're managing your money, we're going to coach you every single year to take advantage of some of the tax rates that are out there right now. And if the tax rates are lower now than they're going to be in the future, now is the time to act. Now is the time to, at least, if you're in the middle of your tax bracket, okay? You're in the middle of your tax bracket, at least pay and convert the rest of it. Say you've got $50,000 left in your tax bracket before you go to the next higher tax bracket. Go ahead and take $50,000 and do what's called a Roth conversion. Now, I'm in my sane mind. I haven't had anything to drink. I don't drink alcohol. Go ahead and pay the tax on that $50,000 now, 2025. Why? Because taxes are on sale. Do you understand have you been listening to the show? That's what we talked about earlier in the show. Pay them now when taxes are on sale. Get them into from a forever taxed bucket into a never again tax bucket. Pay them now while they're on sale, and do that not all at once, but do it every year through a process of tax harvesting. We have a software that we work that through. Is it going to make a difference if I do that on my Medicare Part B and Part D? You have to be careful.
Yes.
Don't do this alone. It's like carrying nitroglycerin. It might work, you might be able to succeed, but you might blow this thing up. Is it going to impact any capital gain that I've had this year? Is it going to blow that from a 15 to a 20% bracket? So when we work with people, we help them do Roth conversions, and our goal is, by the time they turn 73 and they get to that point where they have to take required minimum distributions, we've got as much money, if not all of your money, out of that IRA, the tax paid on it at lower rates, and we've moved you over into a Roth where you never pay tax on it again.
I love that you shared that, Tom, because we say this on the show all the time, but the reality is how you make a decision in one area of your financial life can and will affect all the others. You cannot afford to look at any of these decisions in isolated silos, if you will. You have to look at the comprehensive picture to see how they fit together so you don't inadvertently cause yourself financial hardship in another area. So if you would like some help putting together your very own complimentary retirement blueprint, again, that's what Tom and the team of Moseley Wealth Management are offering you completely free of charge. To take advantage of that, simply call the number on the bottom of your screen, 866-709-1462, or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. More on how to remove your wealth from Washington right after this.
Welcome to Right on the Money Moment. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Tom Moseley of Moseley Wealth Management. And Tom, I have a very important question for you. The importance of proper holistic retirement planning. Why is that important to folks in the viewing audience today to plan properly for retirement?
It's a great question. A lot of people come in and they talk to us, and I ask them, I said, do you have a financial plan? And they'll hand me a 401k statement, or they'll hand me a 403b statement, or an IRA account. Now those accounts are great, don't get me wrong. That's like the lumberyard that you use and put together in a retirement blueprint to build a plan. But if you don't have a written plan, you're hoping things work out. If you've got all of your money left in the market like you did when you were 25, 30, 35, 40 years of age, that's where it should be. But if you've got all of your money left in the market in retirement, you've got hope as a plan. Hope the market doesn't go down. Hope I'm still able to draw money out. I have a group of friends that we travel with at least 1 week a year, and we go somewhere, and we're planning next year to go to Glacier. We've got our Airbnb. We've got what we're going to do each day. We've got a rental vehicle. We know where we're going to be, when we're going to be, and we've got it written down. If we want to alter what we do one day, guess what? You can alter it.
Yes.
But if you don't have the plan, you're just all over the place. You're hoping we're going to go up there, find a hotel, maybe we can get a rental car. If not, we might have to take Uber in Glacier. I don't know if that'll work. So you say, well, that's sort of silly. Well, it's sort of silly to go into a 20-year retirement and to spend less time preparing for it than you will on a 2-week vacation somewhere to Europe, or maybe a 1-week vacation to Glacier. So it's really important that people have a written financial plan when they get to retirement.
Tom, thank you so much for such amazing advice. To our viewers at home, you need a plan. You heard it from Tom. Take care.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're watching Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are talking today about how to remove your wealth from Washington. And in the last segment, Tom, you shared a lot about the strategy of Roth conversions and helping folks take money that is set to be forever taxed and converting it to be never taxed again. I know you do this day in and day out for folks, and you have a wealth of stories to share. Is there any example that comes to mind that really helps illustrate what we're talking about today?
Yeah, we work with hundreds of people literally to do this. Mm-hmm. One that I just met with recently, and they've been with me like 8 or 9 years since they retired. He retired as an attorney about 9 years ago. She retired as a nurse about 6 years ago, as I recall. I might have those ages a little bit wrong as far as the dates and how long. But They have about $1.3 million. Sounds good, okay? And they've got a pension coming in, so those things are good. But this $1.3 million all has to be taxed. That's the negative about it. So we went to work a few years ago in taking that money and doing the Roth conversions that we talked about last segment, and going ahead and paying the tax now. For instance, what we're doing this year, and this year and the last couple of years, we're getting closer to that time when they're turning 73 and they're required to take money out. So we were pushing them in their tax bracket. Remember I said if you're in the middle of your tax bracket, we were pushing them for the first couple of years up to the top of the 22% tax bracket. And finally, we came into them one day and we said, in the software we use, it said, if you'll go ahead and go through the 24% tax bracket and pay all of that, we'll get this all converted by the time you turn 73 and by the time you need to take out the required minimum distributions. And they looked at it, and the first question was like, why would we pay more tax now into a higher tax bracket? Remember, the 22% tax bracket alone in another couple of years is going to the 25% tax bracket. The 24% tax bracket is going to the 28% tax bracket. So even if you pay 24% now, you're paying less than you'll be paying in 2 years, just if the laws that are in place now continue to be followed and we go back up in 2026. So they're on sale right now. That's why you buy it now. If they say this deal is good through Monday, you better get there by Monday, because on Tuesday you're out of luck. So that's why we touch with people, and we've been converting about $200,000 a year and paying tax on it. And by the time they get to required minimum distributions, we're going to have all of their money in the Roth, and they're just going to be able to laugh at the government and say, it's all done.
Yep. Uncle Sam, you no longer have your hands in this, right?
For them, they can raise it as high as they want. It's not going to impact them. There are other things we can talk about, financial gifts, charitable trust, different things like that. But we want to help you pay as little as you're legally required to pay in taxes. And we can't do that unless you reach out to us and let us help you.
And Tom, to your point, there are so many strategies. I'm getting choked up here.
Yes.
But no, there are so many great strategies to look at, and I know you're excited to connect with more folks to be able to help you at home remove your wealth from Washington. So if you would like some help lowering your tax bill in retirement, there's never been a better time to pick up the phone and call 866-709-1462 or scan that QR code to get connected, and a member of the team will reach out to you to schedule your complimentary retirement blueprint. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next time.